consecuencia de estar dedicado a las actividades de derechos humanos,
as a result of being dedicated to human rights work, they imprisoned me just as I am imprisoned today.
At the end of August 2011, nearly a year after his initial incarceration, a judge formally opened trial proceedings against recognized human rights defender and economist David Ravelo, who is accused of murdering David Nuñez Cala in 1991.
Nosotros esperamos que al final de todo este juicio se caiga este proceso que...
We hope that this trial can put an end to this process, which we consider the framing of a human rights defender based on evidence that is not valid.
Son válidas, que están, digamos, de alguna manera viciadas por el tema de que...
And is in some ways corrupt, because these witnesses had been given the order to assassinate David Ravelo and had attacked human rights defenders.
The investigation into the homicide of Nuñez Cala was reopened following testimony from former paramilitary commander Mario Jaimes Mejia, alias El Panadero, and Fremio Sánchez Carreño, alias El Loco Esteban, in which they accused David Ravelo of participating in the murder.
Son testigos de cargo que están condenados por masacres cometidas en Barranca Bermeja.
They are prosecution witnesses that have been convicted of massacres they committed in Barranca Bermeja and have confessed to many other crimes, appalling acts in which Credos represented victims in the very cases in which these people were convicted.
Nosotros hemos venido insistiendo en que ha habido falta de debido proceso, que no se ha hecho una...
We have insisted that due process has not been followed, nor has this been a comprehensive process. The Public Prosecutor's Office has not allowed us to carry out an adequate defense due to evidence that was not admitted or evidence that was admitted but not collected during the initial investigation. And the prosecution's attitude during the trial has been similar. Once the defense attempted to admit evidence in the trial, the prosecution appealed each piece of evidence in order to prevent the truth from being known.
This is not an isolated case. According to the Campaign for the Right to Defend Human Rights in Colombia, 130 people who work to defend human rights were prosecuted in 2010. In 2007, 18 members of the Peasant Farmer Association of the Cimitara River Valley were accused of rebellion, arrest warrants were issued against them, and 6 of them were imprisoned. Today, all are free, but the legal proceedings and incarcerations were a blow to the organization, leaving them legally vulnerable and with a loss of prestige. Miguel Huepa was one of the people jailed on charges of rebellion.
Mi encarcelamiento fue por 16 meses y me dijeron que quedaba exonerado.
I was incarcerated for 16 months and they told me that I was exonerated. This means that the incarceration was unjust. The impact was very hard on my family, logically, as they're human, and they saw me taken away, knowing that I had not caused harm to anyone, but was still taken away.
Los socios de las juntas comunales, de las diferentes organizaciones también.
But also the activists and members of the community boards of different organizations were left on standby because they said, well, if this guy spoke to us about education, healthcare, the environment, human rights, about conducting ourselves as people and continuing to make advancements in development and peace work, then why would he be taken away?
David Ravelo is one of the most important social leaders in the Magdalena Medio. In 30 years spent defending human rights, he has denounced innumerable extrajudicial executions, displacements, and forced disappearances in the region.
Para el movimiento social y derechos humanos en el Magdalena Medio,
for the social and human rights movement in the Magdalena Medio, the trial of our human rights defender, David Ravelo Crespo, has been disastrous.
Digamos desastroso en el sentido que David venía siendo el vocero.
Because David was the official spokesperson of the human rights movement in the Magdalena Medio.
David Ravelo is convinced that his incarceration is meant to silence a popular leader who has remained undaunted and has not been co-opted by the establishment. Ravelo was already tried once for rebellion in 1993 and after 27 months in jail was acquitted of all charges. The Colombian state was ordered to compensate him for his arbitrary detention. Moreover, he has had to withstand a decade of death threats, the most recent of which coming 2 months before his detention. None of this, however, has been able to silence his work.